What an amazing introduction after an amazing speech by Senator Dodd. Ambassador Cui, Ambassador Sasser, Senator Dodd, members of Congress, Congressman Meng, Congressman Sherman, and my old colleague Wang Ji, Dr. Wang Ji, who is the occasion for this event. I really greatly appreciate the honor that has been conferred on me. And in terms of lifetime achievement in promoting U.S.-China relations, I have no doubt that the award should really go to Dr. Ji Wang, with whom I joined 2 decades ago in founding this organization. He and others have done an enormous amount for U.S.-China relations. I've been a bit like Forrest Gump, not too bright, but likely to be there when stuff happens in U.S.-China relations. Back in 1964, 50 years ago, when I was pretending to study law at the Harvard Law School, but really thinking about a career in diplomacy, I had this weird notion that the global strategic geometry was somewhat askew. And I thought that Washington and Beijing needed to develop a relationship. Now, that was then a politically incorrect thought. But I was sure it would happen, and I wanted to be there when it did. And to my pleasant surprise, I was. I entered the Foreign Service of the United States 49 years ago. I was a Latin Americanist with a strong background in European history. After service in India, where I struggled to learn Tamil, I studied both Standard Chinese and Taiwanese. And I was then serially involved in the drafting of the Shanghai Communique, the uninteresting parts about trade and cultural exchange, and the immediate implementation of the normalization communique with which State Roy had a great deal to do, the negotiation with Congress of the Taiwan Relations Act, and the working out of the August 17, 1982 understanding on Taiwan arms sales. Later, as Assistant Secretary of Assistant Secretary of Defense, I reestablished Sino-American military relations during a November 1993 visit to Beijing. That was 21 years ago. The agenda for cooperation I proposed then has now finally begun to come alive. After 3 decades of service to our country, much of it involved with China, I burned my tux, which is why you see me here like this, and I retired. I can attest that those of you here in black tie tonight have something to look forward to. I have greatly enjoyed life after the enforced conformity of public service. I've now been in private business for almost 20 years, working on building enterprises around the world, including sometimes with Chinese partners. I've also kept in touch with Chinese policymakers and the China watching community here. And I'm very proud to have spent 50 years working on what everyone now acknowledges is the most consequential bilateral relationship in this 21st century. And I'm happy to have Tao Guangyang Hui shrouded whatever talent I had and cultivated obscurity since leaving government. I have a great deal to say about the tremendous changes in China and in Sino-American relations over the past 50 years, but given time constraints, I will spare you those thoughts. I have only one observation to offer before inviting Congresswoman Meng Chao-wan, Congressman Grace Meng, to the podium. To me, what is really most striking about the Sino-American relationship is the existence, the persistence of parallel narratives. The Shanghai Communique exemplifies this with its candid recitation of differences, plus its affirmation of the potential interest inherent in our possibly overcoming these differences. Our two countries have seldom agreed about much of anything, but we have agreed about enough to produce mutually advantageous results. We've managed to achieve a reasonable facsimile of cooperation without, for the most part, working together. We may not have agreed on joint action, but we have contrived to follow parallel policies. 42 years ago, during the Nixon visit to Beijing, I got into a mild argument with Zhang Hanzhi, the late Zhang Hanzhi, a lovely lady whose passing diminishes us all, about what parallel policies might mean. Parallel can be rendered in Chinese in at least two ways. Ms. Zhang seemed to favor 并行不悖. This defines parallel in mathematical terms. It means lines that proceed equidistantly and never converge. I told her I preferred 一途同归, which means to proceed by different paths to the same ends. 并行不悖 implies eternal differences. 一途同归 suggests that common goals can be pursued by separately decided paths. We still don't know which definition of parallel will ultimately apply in Sino-American relations, but I remain optimistic. I believe that China and the United States can chart the courses we must, either separately or jointly, to destinations that serve the interests of both countries. In this regard, the summit in Beijing last week was really encouraging. We have come a long way. The future, I think, is at least as promising as the course we have followed to get here. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for my 5 minutes of fame, and I now invite Congresswoman Meng, whom I congratulate on your re-election to a second term,